So Cenk Uygur the other day tweeted, he said, "I'm so proud of the populist left like Ro Khanna and Greg Sazar and populist right like Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene for standing up against the Israeli lobby." Now, first, I want to say it's great that we have Republican congresspeople who are standing up to the Israel lobby. That is great. But it is an absolute joke to call Marjorie Taylor Greene a populist. What is populism? Populism broadly means that you support policies that help the everyday person, but what you're doing is you're anti-elitist, you're anti-establishment, you're opposed to the establishment. Saying Marjorie Taylor Greene is a populist is like saying I'm black. It's just not true. Didn't think I had to spell that one out for you. She voted yes on the big beautiful bill that takes healthcare away from 17 million Americans. That's not very populist. In the past, Marjorie Taylor Greene has said that the federal government has no role in making housing affordable across the country, basically ignoring national policy on the issue. That's not very populist. She has called people who receive support from our social safety nets lazy. She said that people who support those policies, who support funding our social safety nets, are lazy. That's not very populist. Being populist, like I said, means you're anti-establishment, you are anti-elitist. If Donald Trump told Marjorie Taylor Greene to jump, she would ask how high. In the past, Marjorie Taylor Greene has called SNAP, which is food stamps, she has called that socialist. And if you know anything about her, she demonizes socialism all the time. Demonizing food stamps doesn't sound very populist. Marjorie Taylor Greene has spent a majority of her political career demonizing and dehumanizing trans people and immigrants, trans people who are likely Americans, immigrants who are Americans, either a citizen or a legal resident, just absolutely demonizing them and dehumanizing them for the better part of a decade. I remember back in, was it 2018, the midterms, or 2020, I saw a few of her advertisements when she was running for re-election. Forgive me, I don't know the year exactly. But in that advertisement, she said something to the effect of, "We need to vote out these Democrats who are weaponizing identity politics." And then in that very same ad, I'm not kidding, she went on to demonize trans people and immigrants. How fucking funny is that? How backwards is that? That doesn't sound very populist to me. Now, I can list 100 other things that she has done or said that are not looking out for the common person, for the everyday person, people who are like you and me, people like us. But I want to get into these comments or the replies to Cenk's tweet. Absolutely fascinating. Let's check it out. Someone said, "I love it when Cenk welcomes failed Republicans with open arms. Now all their problems are your problem." So when she says failed Republicans, she's referring to obviously Thomas Massie and Marjorie Taylor Greene, who he quoted in the tweet. Thomas Massie is probably the best Republican in Congress. He's a true libertarian, and nowadays I'll take a libertarian over a MAGA shill all day long, dude. But Marjorie Taylor Greene, okay, I'll give her that. She is a failed Republican. I don't really like her very much. But she's one of the very few Republicans in Congress who are standing up to the Israel lobby. That's something. That's actually pretty huge. But she's doing it for the wrong reasons, right? We stand up against the Israel lobby because they are harming America. The Israel lobby runs and owns our politicians, which means that our politicians are bought and sold by Israel. They don't truly represent Americans when some of their campaigns, the largest donors, are a foreign nation's lobby group. There's just a huge conflict of interest, right? And also, Israel is committing a genocide on the Palestinians in Gaza. That's another huge reason, obviously, why we don't support Israel in general. Like, I want them to be a free nation and have equal rights, but we should not be sending them $4 billion annually just in aid. And that's not even talking about the weapons packages that we continue to send for them to do their genocide and ethnic cleansing. That's why we are against the Israel lobby. But Marjorie Greene She's doing it because she's truly America first and America only. She doesn't think we should be sending aid to foreign nations, period. She thinks it's a waste of money because Israel has proven that they can support themselves. In a message to Congress the other day, she spoke and she said, Israel has universal health care. Israel has much nicer things than we have. If they can afford all of that, we don't need to be sending billions of dollars of aid over there. They have it nicer than we do. Why don't we spend money here to fix our problems? Now, I don't disagree with her, but if that's your only reason for fighting against the Israel lobby, when you're ignoring the other elephants in the room, like the genocide they're committing, like the stranglehold they have on our politicians, it's a little weird. Okay, so I want to get into some more of these responses. Marjorie Taylor Greene literally blamed Jewish space lasers for the Hawaii fires. Absolute insanity. Someone said, Marjorie Taylor Greene is a populist. She voted for Trump's big, beautiful bill. Get off her effing nuts and stop glazing her, you right-wing grifting hack. Okay. Well, I will say there is a growing number of people who are saying that Cenk's weird shift to the right is a grift. I'm not sure I entirely agree with that. I do think that he has some bad ideas on how to approach Trump and MAGA, but I don't think he's doing it out of just because TYT is losing supporters and he's trying to pick up some weird faction of the Republican base or the MAGA base and trying to bring them into whatever his coalition is. I think he genuinely wants to do well. I don't think he's a grifter. But with that said, he is coddling the nuts of MAGA, and it's hilariously absurd. He continues to call these absolute freaks populists, like Marjorie Greene. I don't know if he really believes that she's a populist. He's doing this because before the election, if you guys know anything about the lore of the situation, Cenk infamously said, if Trump got elected and started doing bad things, if he started doing anti-populist policy, like the big beautiful bill, that the MAGA base would leave him, that the MAGA base would come out in opposition to whatever Trump had done. The only major thing that Trump has done in his second term, where a majority of his supporters, his base, came out and opposed something that he did, was with the Epstein situation, and they're still doing that. Trump is actively participating in a cover-up of the Epstein files because he's in them. He was best friends with Epstein for over a decade. We know this. And his supporters, I would say that most of them have said they don't like that. They don't like that Trump is covering something up. It smells fishy. But basically with everything else, most of his base on the big beautiful bill blindly supported it. Most of his base supported the first 2 months when Elon came flying in like a rocket, no pun intended, SpaceX, when he was illegally slashing funding for essential social safety net programs like Medicaid. He hacked into the Treasury illegally, by the way. Trump let him, though. And that is extremely unconstitutional because Congress has the power of the purse. They get to decide where funding goes. And once the bill is passed and the president signs it, it's a done deal. But Elon went in there on the back end and started canceling funding for programs that he wanted to cut. He wasn't elected. That was completely unconstitutional and horrific. But yet the MAGA base broadly supported that. So Cenk made this great prediction that when Trump does bad things, the MAGA base will oppose it. Cenk really believes that there's a faction of MAGA that he can bring into his left-wing coalition, whatever that means for him nowadays. Cenk has spent more time criticizing and demonizing the far left, whatever that means, than he has MAGA, the MAGA movement. He talks about Trump all the time, how bad he is, but the MAGA movement itself, the policies that Trump supports, not Trump the person, but the MAGA base and the policies that they think that they support, Cenk no longer criticizes them. So he's going on this weird humiliation tour where he's basically telling everyone that he was right all along. He's like, oh my God, look at all those MAGA supporters criticizing Trump for this or that. There are some MAGA supporters who are criticizing and opposing certain things that Trump is doing, but it's certainly not the base. And it's certainly not even half of MAGA. He keeps embarrassing himself by calling these people populist. It's embarrassing. Someone said, now you're proud of Marjorie Taylor Greene, the most racist Trump supporter of all time. Hypocrite. That's very true. Marjorie Greene is very racist. She has said unfathomable things about black people, about trans people, about Mexicans specifically. She has this weird thing against Mexicans, Latinos and Hispanic people. Yes, she says some cracked out things about them, but she really hates Mexicans. She's racist. Anyway, that's all I've got for you guys. If you like this content, if you found it somewhat useful, please consider subscribing. I'm almost to 800, and my goal is to get to 1,000 by the end of the year. So like and subscribe if you'd like to, if you want to see more of this. And yeah, take care. Bye.